Someone knows where her body is. That is what they said. Not the kidnapper. Someone else. Someone who claims they watched Nancy Guthrie alive in Mexico, 70 miles from her home. With them, the people who took her. And now that person is saying she is dead, and they know exactly where she is buried, and they want half a Bitcoin to tell you. Day 68. No arrest, no suspect named. And a note that arrived at TMZ on the same morning. Savannah Guthrie walked back onto the Today Show in a yellow dress. The same morning, the same hour. While America watched Savannah say, "It is good to be home," someone was sending a message saying, her mother is dead, and they know where the body is. Her name is Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old. Taken from her home in Tucson, Arizona on the night of January 31st. In her pajamas, without her shoes, without her medication, without her pacemaker charging. 68 days. And now a note claiming she is gone, that she crossed into Mexico alive, and that she did not make it back. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to understand why this note changes everything about where this investigation is pointing. Why Sonora, Mexico is not a random location. Why a group of mothers has been searching for Nancy on the other side of the border since February. Why a former FBI agent is now asking if a specific volunteer organization needs to get involved. What the note said about the FBI that nobody is talking about. Whether this sender is credible or a scammer. And the one detail buried in these notes that investigators cannot ignore. Before we go deeper, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. Because this case is moving fast, and this channel covers every development as it happens. Let's start with what the note actually says, because most coverage has reported the headline without examining what is inside it. On Monday, April 6th, at the same moment, Savannah Guthrie was saying, "It is good to be home" on national television. TMZ received two notes from the same person who has been contacting TMZ since February 11th, the same person who has been offering to identify the kidnappers for 1 Bitcoin since the beginning, the same person who has been dismissed as a scammer for almost 2 months. The first note said this: "It is unbelievable that millions have been wasted, and yet here I am, willing to deliver them on a silver platter since the 11th of February for a Bitcoin. But I am disregarded as a scam. They are free, and the case is frozen, but the egos remain hot when it comes to me. Arrogance at its finest." Then the second note arrived, shortly after the first, and this one contained something no previous note had ever included: a location. For the first time in 68 days of this investigation, someone claiming to have inside knowledge named a place. "I saw her alive with them in the state of Sonora, Mexico." Sonora, a large Mexican state that shares a border with Arizona, approximately 60 miles south of Tucson, approximately 60 miles south of the home Nancy Guthrie was taken from. And in that same note, the same person who said they saw Nancy alive in Sonora also said she is dead now. They claim they watched Nancy Guthrie cross into Mexico alive, with her kidnappers, and that she did not survive what came after. And they say they know the exact location of her body, and they want half a Bitcoin up front, approximately $34,000, and the other half when there is a public arrest. Now, before we examine whether this is credible, let's talk about the timing, because the timing of these notes is the detail most coverage buried. These notes arrived on April 6th, the same day Savannah Guthrie returned to the Today Show for the first time in 68 days, the most watched morning show in America, the day the entire country was paying attention to this case again, the day the ratings were guaranteed to be at their highest since February 1st. Retired FBI agent Jason Pack noticed the timing immediately. He said the fact that this note arrived on the same day Savannah returned throws major doubt on its credibility. He made a point that stops you cold. Real witnesses call law enforcement. Scammers call the media. That is not my opinion. That is the assessment of a former federal agent who spent his career working cases exactly like this one. But here is where it gets complicated, because dismissing the note entirely may be exactly what the kidnapper wants. Think about that. If you are the person who took Nancy Guthrie and you want the investigation to stay focused on Tucson and stay focused on Arizona, you need every lead pointing toward Mexico to be dismissed as a scam. Every credible tip about Sonora that gets ignored is another day the kidnappers operate freely. Another day Nancy is not found. And this sender has been consistent. Not for a week, for almost 2 months, since February 11th. The same person, the same demand, the same offer. Dismissed every time, and still coming back. Now let's talk about what the sender said about the FBI, because this is the detail that nobody is examining carefully. The sender wrote that they have been disregarded as a scam, that millions have been wasted on the search, that the FBI is arrogant, that the case is frozen. Now ask yourself something. If you were a random person trying to profit from a high-profile case, why would you criticize the FBI by name? Why would you use the word arrogance? Why would you reference the specific date of February 11th? Why would you know that the case is frozen? Why would you send 2 notes on the same day, one demanding payment and one providing a location you did not have to provide? The location was free information. They did not charge extra for Sonora. They just included it. A pure scammer does not give away information for free. A pure scammer extracts maximum payment before revealing anything. This person named the state, without charging extra for it. That detail is either the behavior of someone who genuinely wants to be believed, or it is the most sophisticated manipulation in this case so far. Now let's talk about Sonora, because this is where the story gets deeper than any coverage has gone. Sonora, Mexico is not a random location. It is not a place this sender pulled out of thin air. Let's look at what the documented record already shows about the border connection in this case. From the earliest days of the investigation, the FBI briefed Border Patrol agents on both sides of the United States and Mexico border. That is standard procedure when an abduction occurs near the border. But Tucson is not just near the border. Tucson is 60 miles from Sonora, the same state this sender named. The FBI set up surveillance and briefed agents specifically about this case on both sides of that border crossing. Why would they do that if they had no reason to believe the suspect or Nancy might have crossed? They would not. And then there is the group nobody is talking about in this context. Madres Buscadoras de Sonora, the Searching Mothers of Sonora. A nonprofit organization primarily made up of mothers and wives searching for loved ones lost to cartel violence or government failure. Since their founding in 2019, they have located 5,000 people, both alive and deceased. They have been involved in the Nancy Guthrie case since February. They were in Nancy's neighborhood in Tucson distributing flyers. They posted her missing persons appeal to their Facebook page, which has 1.6 million followers, and they have been spreading awareness in border towns. Nogales, Sonoita, towns that sit directly on the Arizona-Sonora border. Why were they focused on border towns? Because from the beginning, there were people who believed Nancy may have been taken across that border, and now a note has arrived naming the exact state those border towns connect to. Former FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer took notice immediately. She publicly asked whether Madres Buscadoras de Sonora needed to expand their search based on the new note. That is not a casual observation. That is a former federal agent suggesting that a group with 5,000 successful recoveries in Sonora, Mexico, may be the most relevant organization in this investigation right now. Now let's talk about what an active police detective said about the credibility of these notes, because the FBI's skepticism is not the only professional assessment available. Brian Martin is an active detective with the Fort Wayne Police Department. He specializes in cold cases. He spoke publicly about the notes on Brian Enton Investigates on April 7th. He said something that contradicts the dismissal narrative. He said the person whoever sent the letters wants to be heard. They want those letters to be found, or they would not have sent them to a news outlet. That is somebody who wants to be heard. He then said something important about what he hopes is true. He said he would hope that if it is the person involved in Nancy's disappearance, they want to be heard and are legitimately trying to negotiate some type of deal, and not somebody who has ulterior motives for attention that has nothing to do with the case. Because he said you get somebody like that, and it is going to take this case down a completely wrong path, away from Nancy, away from trying to find her, if she is still alive. Notice what he said, if she is still alive. He did not say she is dead. He did not confirm the note. He left the question open, because the question is still open. Now let's talk about what we know and what we do not know, because this is where the three frameworks for understanding these notes diverge. The first framework is that the sender is a scammer. They have been watching this case for 2 months. They know the public details. They picked a day of maximum media attention to send new notes. They are using the border theory because it is geographically plausible and impossible to immediately disprove. The FBI has not deposited Bitcoin into the account, which suggests they do not believe the information is legitimate. Under this framework, Nancy may still be alive somewhere in the United States, and these notes are a distraction. The second framework is that the sender is a genuine witness. They saw something. They know something. They are not the kidnapper. They are someone who had contact with the people who took Nancy, someone who was in Sonora and saw an elderly American woman with a group of people, someone who put the pieces together and decided to monetize their knowledge instead of contacting law enforcement directly. Under this framework, Nancy was taken across the border. She was in Sonora, alive, and the sender knows where she is now. The third framework is the most disturbing, and it is the one that cannot be dismissed. What if the sender is telling the truth about Sonora, but not about Nancy being dead? What if Nancy is alive in Sonora, and the sender is creating the impression she is dead to drive down the urgency of the search, to make investigators and the family believe the case is over, while the actual situation is still active, still ongoing, still requiring a ransom payment or a negotiation that has not yet happened? That framework explains the timing. Why send notes the day Savannah returns to television? Because that is the day the most people are paying attention. That is the day the family is watching. That is the day the message has maximum impact. Whatever the true framework is, the Sonora lead cannot be ignored, because here is what the documented record shows. The FBI briefed border agents on both sides of the Arizona-Mexico border from the earliest days of the investigation. A group that has recovered 5,000 people in Sonora, Mexico, has been involved in this case since February. A note arrived naming Sonora specifically on the day of maximum media attention. Tucson is 60 miles from the Sonora border, and the investigation supervisor assigned to this case has never worked a homicide case, according to a source who spoke to News Nation. That last detail has been almost completely ignored. The person supervising the most high-profile missing persons investigation in America has never worked a homicide. Now let's talk about what needs to happen. Former FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer asked publicly whether Madres Buscadoras de Sonora should expand their search. The answer to that question has not been publicly given. 5,000 recoveries. Active presence in border towns. 1.6 million followers who can spread information across Sonora. If Nancy was taken into Mexico, if she is somewhere in that state, dead or alive. Madres Buscadoras de Sonora has more operational capacity in that terrain than any American law enforcement agency. The FBI cannot operate freely in Mexico. Local Mexican authorities have their own challenges. But a group of mothers who have been doing this since 2019 in Sonora know that terrain. They know the communities. They know how to search. And they already care about this case. Here is what the documented record confirms with certainty. 2 notes arrived at TMZ on April 6th, from the same sender who has been contacting the outlet since February 11th. The first note said, "Nancy Guthrie is dead." The second note said the sender saw her alive in Sonora, Mexico, with her kidnappers. The sender is demanding half a Bitcoin for the location of her body and the identity of the kidnappers. The FBI has received the notes and appears skeptical. No Bitcoin has been deposited into the account. The Pima County Sheriff's Department says all tips are being taken seriously. Sonora, Mexico borders Arizona approximately 60 miles south of Tucson. The FBI briefed border agents on both sides of the border from the earliest days of the investigation. Madres Buscadoras de Sonora has been active in this case since February. The investigation supervisor has never worked a homicide, and the sender has been consistent for almost 2 months. Day 68. No arrest. No suspect named. A note saying she is dead. A location that was not charged for. And a group of 5,000 recoveries in the exact state the sender named. The question that cannot be answered from the available public record is whether Nancy Guthrie is alive or dead. The question that cannot be answered is whether the sender is a scammer or a witness. The question that cannot be answered is whether she is in Sonora or somewhere else entirely. But here is what can be said with certainty. For 68 days, investigators have not publicly named a suspect. For 68 days, the only lead pointing to a specific location has come not from the official investigation, but from an anonymous person sending notes to a tabloid. For 68 days, a group with 5,000 successful recoveries in Sonora, Mexico, has been available, and nobody has publicly confirmed whether their expertise has been formally requested. Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old. She was taken in her pajamas, without her shoes, without her medication, without her pacemaker, 68 days ago, and somewhere, in Tucson or in Sonora or somewhere in between. She's waiting, or she's gone. And a note arrived on the day her daughter came home in yellow to say that someone knows which one it is. And that knowledge has a price. The FBI tip line is 1-800-CALL-FBI. The Guthrie family is offering $1 million for information leading to Nancy's recovery. Subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell, because this case is not over. And the moment there is a development, this channel will be the first to cover what it means. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe the sender is credible or a scammer? Do you believe Nancy was taken across the border into Sonora, Mexico? And do you believe that 68 days without a named suspect means the official investigation has already failed? Because the note arrived on the same day Savannah came home, and it said her mother is not coming home. Someone knows which version is true. Someone needs to do the right thing.